I never doubt myself. 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 Yeah, that's what I wrote in the title of this video, but I can practically hear some of you saying, of course that's easy for you to say when you are so good at everything that you do. Or maybe you should try out our lives and see how difficult that is for you. Try saying that you never have to doubt yourself after that. Well, here's the truth. I doubt myself constantly. The only difference is that I've learned to make it work for me rather than working against me. I'm going to share something that might surprise you. A study shows that 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point of their lives. And here's the kicker. It's even more common among women in STEM fields. So if you're watching this as someone who's pursuing a career in engineering, tech, medicine, or any high achievement field, you are in excellent company. But today is not about trying to convince you that imposter syndrome doesn't exist. Instead, it's about trying to show you how to dance with it so gracefully that it becomes part of your strength rather than your weakness. Because the goal isn't to become someone who doesn't doubt herself. It's to become someone who doubts herself intelligently. Part 1. The high achievement paradox. Before we dive deep, let's address something that doesn't get talked about enough. Imposter syndrome actually targets high achievers more than anyone else. I know it sounds backwards. You'd think that people who are constantly successful feel more confident rather than facing this, right? But here's what actually happens, and this is based on research, not just on my opinion. The traits that make you a high achiever are perfectionism, drive for excellence, constant goal setting, and these are the exact same traits that make you vulnerable to imposter syndrome. Every achievement raises the bar, and every success makes you think, what if I can't do it again? When I got first accepted into my AIML program at college, what I first thought was that this isn't what I deserve. Probably someone else deserves it more than me, or maybe it's just a stroke of luck, or because I'm just a paying customer. When I first got my modeling gig, I thought to myself that they'll sooner or later realize that I'm not actually model material. And when I started gaining traction on my side hustles, I thought to myself that it's just a stroke of luck. No one actually cares about what I'm doing. This is what psychologists call the imposter cycle. You face a challenge. You either over-prepare or procrastinate. Due to anxiety, you succeed. But instead of internalizing that success, you attribute it to external factors like convincing yourself that you fooled everyone. The fascinating part? The cycle is actually evidence of high standards and self-awareness. The problem isn't that you have these thoughts, it's that you're interpreting them as the truth instead of recognizing them as the predictable psychological patterns that they actually are. Part 2. The neuroscience of self-doubt. Let me show you what's actually happening in your brain when imposter syndrome hits, because understanding this changes everything. Your brain has what neuroscientists call a negativity bias. It's evolutionarily wired to pay more attention to potential threats rather than to positive information. Well, I'm pretty sure you actually feel this already. This kept our ancestors alive, but in modern high-achievement environments, it means that your brain treats professional challenges like saber-toothed tigers.
Meow. Roar.
When you're in a high-stakes situation, a presentation, an interview, or a difficult project, your amygdala activates your fight or flight response, and your prefrontal cortex, which handles rational thinking, gets suppressed. This is why imposter syndrome feels so overwhelming and why logical arguments against it often don't work in the moment. But here's what's actually interesting. Research shows that people who acknowledge and understand their imposter feelings actually perform far, far better than those who decide to completely ignore it or get overwhelmed by them. And this is why fake it until you make it does not work long term, as expected, because your brain knows that you're faking it, which actually increases anxiety. Instead, what works is what I like to call acknowledge it until you transcend it. Part 3. The reframe. Imposter syndrome as intelligence. Here is where we completely flip the script on imposter syndrome. What if I told you that experiencing imposter syndrome might actually be a sign of intelligence or competence? The Dunning-Kruger effect shows that people with low ability often overestimate themselves, while people with higher ability often tend to underestimate theirs. So, in other words, if you are worried about whether you are good enough, you probably are. I started viewing my imposter syndrome as my brain's quality control system. Now, let me share something specific. Yesterday, I was invited to participate with this guy for a hackathon in a project, and that guy seemed really overqualified. And my immediate thought was that everyone in the team is going to probably know more than me. But instead of spiraling, I used that feeling as data. It told me that if I cared about giving value to my team, then I should be preparing thoroughly instead of making excuses and leaving the opportunity. The imposter syndrome doesn't disappear. It evolves into something that creates a more productive environment for you and genuine engagement with your material. Part 4. The evidence collection system. One of the best ways to work with imposter syndrome is through what I like to call evidence collection, but it's not in the way that most people ought to think. Most advice tells you to keep a list of your accomplishments, and that is good but incomplete. What actually works is keeping 3 types of evidence. Number 1, evidence of growth. Document the moments when you learned something new or handled something better than you would have 6 months ago. This can be as simple as ask a clarifying question in today's meeting instead of pretending to understand. Number 2, evidence of impact. Note when your work, ideas, or presence actually made a difference to somebody else. Not just big wins, but small ones too. My code review caught a bug that would have caused issues in production. And number 3, evidence of recovery. Track the times when you made a mistake and handled them well. This is crucial because perfectionism feeds imposter syndrome. I made a mistake in my calculation, caught it, corrected it, and learned a better verification method. It's as simple as that. I keep these notes in a simple document on my phone. It doesn't have to be anything complicated, and it maybe takes 30 seconds to add an entry, but when imposter syndrome hits, I have concrete data instead of just feelings to work with. It's like having a GPS for your self-worth. When you feel lost, you can look at the data and see exactly where you are and how far you have traveled. Convenient. Part 5. The social dimension. Here is something that took me a long time to figure out. Imposter syndrome thrives in isolation. The more that you keep it to yourself, the stronger it gets. Research shows that talking about imposter feelings with your trusted colleagues or mentors provides objective perspective and reduces their emotional intensity. But here's the key. It needs to be a strategic showing and not just venting. Here is something that you can do. I've developed something that I call selective vulnerability. I identify people in the field who I respect and who seem mature psychologically, and I ask them specific questions. Have you ever felt out of place in a technical meeting? How do you handle it? Or what would you do if you felt underqualified for a project that you really wanted to work with? Almost every time they share their own experiences with self-doubt. And then suddenly I realized that the person that I admire for their confidence was exactly like me and feels the exact same way that I do. You should try it out for yourself. And the other benefit of strategic sharing is that most people often provide perspective that you cannot see for yourself. They'll remind you of projects that you handled well or point out the skills that you have demonstrated that you forgot about because they have a lot of reasons to admire you too. There's also something really powerful about becoming the person that creates a space for these conversations. When you open up about yourself for growth areas, then other people feel safe sharing theirs, and it benefits everyone. Part 6. The preparation ritual. Let me share a specific technique that helps you build genuine confidence. This is what I like to call preparation rituals, where you will channel your nervous energy into something that builds genuine confidence instead of trying to cover up that anxiety. This isn't about over-preparing, it's about preparing in a perfect way that builds genuine confidence instead of trying to eliminate your anxiety. Step 1. Competence mapping. Write down everything that you know that is relevant to the situation, and not just the obvious stuff, but transferable skills related to experience or even personal qualities that might add. Step 2. Gap identification. I honestly assess what I don't know or where I might struggle, but instead of panicking about the gaps, decide which ones are crucial and worth addressing and which one you can handle in real time. And step 3. Authentic positioning. This is the most important step. Prepare a few sentences about your background that are honest and about your experience and your learning areas. Something like, I specialize in machine learning applications and I am particularly interested in learning more about fashion from this group. This ritual transforms the feeling of I don't belong here to here is what I bring and here's what I'm curious about to learn from you guys, and here is where I can contribute to the team and continue my learning without being a burden on you all. Finally, working with imposter syndrome in real time. Alright, let's get into the moment-by-moment tactics for when imposter syndrome strikes in high-stakes situations in real time. You're in a meeting, someone asks you a question, and you suddenly feel that familiar panic of, everyone's gonna know that I don't belong here. What do you actually do in that moment? You follow a 3-step protocol, and it's super easy. Number 1, take a pause. Take a breath, literally. This interrupts your fight or flight response and gives your prefrontal cortex a chance to come back online. Number 2, the honest response. That's a great question. Let me think about it for a moment. Buy yourself time and position yourself as a thoughtful person rather than someone who's cluelessly throwing answers to a wall. And number 3, the learning position. If you genuinely don't know what to say, just say, I haven't considered this situation before, or I need more time to research it, or I need more background knowledge about it. What's been your experience with it? This transforms the moment from a test into a learning opportunity, and it makes it easier for you and less scary. The difference in people who succeed despite imposter syndrome and those who get stuck is not the absence of doubt, it's the ability to act with confidence while experiencing doubt. Your imposter syndrome is not evidence that you don't belong in high achievement fields. Realize that you need more preparation or need to work harder. Thank you for watching.